Hey, folks, welcome to yet another Mañana No Mas podcast. As you know, we don't really schedule these on a schedule. We just wait until we have someone really awesome to talk to. And in this case, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think he's more than an acquaintance. We kind of know each other from some other circles. Jim Hankins has just been a phenomenal support to me in the Lifter LMS space. He comes to our office hours. We've had conversations off screen, like off of shows about other things and products that he's working on. And today, Jim says he's ready to talk about something called CribOps. So I thought I'd welcome him to the show, let him introduce himself, and see where we go from there. Folks, Jim Hankins. Jim, can you tell us something about yourself?
Yeah, I'll give you a Reader's Digest condensed version. So, given my age.
Given your age. I used to read those when I was a kid. My mom would get Reader's Digest, and I would sit and read them. Like as a kid, I thought they were cool.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So again, Jim Hankins, I own a company called Cloud Bedrock, which is an agency, a web agency. And then I'm involved in a number of different software products and other startups. And most of my kind of history has been in the IT world. So I've worked for companies like Cisco and, worked for very large automotives, like one of the big three for very long periods of time, building things or supporting things for them. So mostly IT support, server side development, back end stuff, right? I got the opportunity to get acquired by one of my roles as a chief technology officer for a company that did emergency response coordination for panic devices. So if you had a satellite panic button, you press the button, we would coordinate the rescue for that. So I built the infrastructure that received the SOS and, got it to the response center so they could call and dispatch the helicopters.
Are you just afraid to say I've fallen and I can't get up?
Yeah. It's like that. Only it's probably more on the side of a mountain or an avalanche or something off the grid, right? Where they would
like when skiers get stuck in an avalanche and under snow.
Yeah, that was a very very common dispatch scenario that we would have to handle. So that got acquired by Garmin. So I've had a couple exits under my belt with that, which was great. And so now, I had some time to build an agency, work an agency, and we predominantly just are, like WordPress hosting and CRM hosting and doing various and sundry things that the customer needs in our niche. And then got the crazy idea that maybe I would build, based on those observations, a agency focused hosting platform. So, out of the, building the thing that I think I want for my own hosting, and then said, well, probably other people might like this too. So that's CribOps.
So I interview a fair amount of product creators, right? Whether it's for the Mañana No Mas show or for WP Tonic or Membership Machine or whatever. And a lot of them have like that same pathway. Like I needed a product. I got tired of duplicating the effort to like remake this thing for myself over and over again. I thought I would just make it as a product. It's duplicable, and now I can offer it to others. Is that like kind of the mind space that you were in?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think developers oftentimes will spend an inordinate amount of time working on, saving 5 minutes of time and maybe spend 6 months working on it just to help save someone else 5 minutes, right? So there's a little bit of that, right? But yeah, in this particular case, it was for our own agency, enabling us to scale. So other members of mine's a family-owned business. So I have my son and my wife involved in it, whereas I'm more of the crazy, IT guy. So I was trying to give them the ability to do some things because I'm lazy, so that they could work on some of those things too. So I didn't have to have everything that had to do with managing any kind of hosting issues to be able to offload some of that ticket work, right? To make it easier, right?
Yeah.
So at first I went through just using whatever was possible, so I would just go out and rather than reinvent the wheel, try to find other, product offerings that would work. And I've used a number of them and just none of them ever quite like fit the bill for what I wanted to do. And so, so I just said, heck with it, I'll build it.
Heck with it, I'll build it.
Yeah.
It's interesting you kind of go down that route, right? So some listeners and viewers might not care anything about websites. Other people might be, freelancers, or maybe you're a business owner that owns a shoe store and you're like, well, I have a website. What does that mean? And those are like kind of like removed examples, I would dare say. But I think about my own journey as an agency owner. And it was like, yeah, I started out, I was on a budget. We were new. I got this Bluehost account and I figured out, oh, I can add websites and it doesn't add money to my bill. So I'll just sell as many websites as I can until this thing stops working. And then eventually it slows down. You're like, oh, I need to upgrade. I need to this, I need to that. And so I upgraded with Bluehost. I stayed with Bluehost for like 16 years, Jim. 16 years. I ran a ton of projects through that platform. And then finally I was like, you know what? I'm doing professional websites. Like I'm doing real websites for real clients, Suzuki, Ducati, things like that. And so I went to Cloudways. But while I went to Cloudways, I looked at WP Engine, I looked at Kinsta. When I left Cloudways, I was looking at like Rocket.net. I was looking at 20i. I was looking at GridPane. GridPane kind of rose to the top on my list a little bit because they had that Facebook page and they had a lot of people I knew in there saying really good things about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I have used them. I've used most of the ones you've been one time or another. Yeah.
And as people listen to me throwing out all these names, I'm not trying to disparage any or raise any to the top. I like 20i. I've used 20i for a while, and it gives me some tools as an agency person where, I can blueprint some packages, some hosting packages. So I could say, here's a sample site that's my blueprint. And then if I get a customer that wants a similar thing, I just snap that up. It's like an instant build, right? So that's like a thing I like. But there's like these different tools. But now I'm going to be honest about 20i on some hosted things they offer that are really clumsy. Like they have this reseller ability where I can resell hosting, or I can bring people in, but the interface is like super clunky, like 2002 looking, right? Like the interface doesn't look good. It doesn't perform well. It's not a clear path of purchase for the customer. So from an agency perspective, I just create my own sales pages with buttons that say, click here and sign up. And then we manual the project after that. Talk to me about like your experience and like when you're thinking, I got to create an agency focused platform. Like what were the considerations and the features and the options that you wanted to put in place?
Yeah. So it happens to coincide with kind of changes in the marketplace, because it wasn't just, I was always having that feeling that I wanted to have the control. So it was either the hosting provider didn't provide me enough access so that I could troubleshoot something myself, and I had to like open a ticket, so there's that side. So if I want to dip in and actually look at a debug log or something like that, I want to do it because it's probably something's not working right. I need to fix it for the customer, right? But there's like a change in the market now, at least from my perception, where, I'm 60 now, this year. So I've seen a number of market changes, and there seems to be kind of a consolidation of different types of hosting services where it's not just potentially WordPress anymore. Now, there may be people that's all they're using, totally fine, but there may be client demands where they're starting to say, I want to have this or I want to have that. And the agency has to figure out how to operationalize that so that they're not, being forced to have, 5 different accounts to manage all these various and sundry services, as well as economies of scale if there are resources that all of these new sites could leverage, like maybe it's the database, right? So maybe you have this specific like static hosting service that you're going to run alongside your WordPress site. Sure, it'd be nice if you could leverage that database to, share in between and maybe have that be better together, greater than the sum of the parts, kind of a thing. So that's when I started to focus on it, because there's a ton of, you mentioned Kinsta and WP Engine that were very predominantly focused in the WordPress world, right? I think Kinsta spun off Savala as everything else besides WordPress kind of a thing to try to, to deal with that. So I wanted to have multiple support for multiple hosting types. So that was one. And then probably as a side effect of me spending so much time in IT and like enterprise IT, like major large companies or, SOS messages, I have a aversion to, I guess you could say I see downtime. So I see an awful lot of hosted services out there that people are launching their sites on that are what we would call single points of failure, where it's a single virtual private server running somewhere. Maybe it's bring your own infrastructure, and on there is a single MySQL or MariaDB database on there, and then they might put one or more WordPress sites on there, and then the more sites you put on, either the slower you get, or it's also the kind of the blast radius of a failure. So I have an aversion towards that. So I always try to kind of build things when I'm building things that are more fault tolerant and resilient. So fault tolerance is a big thing that I focus on with CribOps. So I don't put a database on a virtual private server. It's a managed database service, as an example. So all sites get that. So it's a primary and secondary. I can do point-in-time recovery, which just means instead of the common thing you see out there, which is daily backups, we could do what day and what minute of the day do you need this restored from, because Gladys inadvertently connected straight to the database and blew something up, or some plugin went sideways and you lost all these records, and it's a WooCommerce site, and now that would be really problematic to have to go back and sort through your payment gateway and rebuild all the user accounts if it was a digital product and all that, right? So with point-in-time recovery, that's no sweat. You just pick the date and time you need to do the recovery and restore it. If you pick the wrong date and time, try it again. If you got the time zone wrong, that happens. If you got the time zone wrong and it was actually this time, then it would be so much easier if we just all agreed on the same time and just got over with it. But yeah,
That would be
totally. But so it's a combination of hosting, providing the ability for agencies to host different kinds of sites if they want to, together in a place that's close together, that then can leverage some of these shared resources, like a really super resilient database. And object caching is another thing. I feel like that is not an option, it's a requirement. So we include it free. Other places will charge you, a lot of money because they have to, cobble that all together. Every single instance has our own, like Redis wire compatible piece of software that sits there. Yeah. Every site has a object cache, so that when you're the agency and you're using it, that's like one of the big things that helps speed things up when you're in the back end, right? Working with Lifter LMS or those kinds of things. If you have an object cache, wow, that makes a big difference on your experience, so,
you make a good point. And this is something I think the listeners and viewers might see some value in. You seem to have a deeper knowledge of caching. And I think so many people are confused about caching. And it sounds like it's a big part of your project, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So a lot of people will have cache on a website. So I do customer service for Lifter LMS, and we get a ton of tickets that come in where someone's like, my users are signing up for a course, and then they go to sign in and it says they don't have an account, or they get a certificate and then they go to their certificates and it's not there. Right. And they think something's wrong with Lifter. Nothing's wrong with Lifter. Something's wrong with your hosting. You've got some cheap host that's caching the living crud out of it, and it's causing a lot of cache errors where what you think you see in the back end is not what your people see on the front end. Right. And so we have to teach people how to not cache certain dynamic pages and things like that. But when you mention object cache, that's kind of a different world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So oftentimes the things that are kind of causing those problems are page caching, plugins where they're caching pages that are dynamic, that need to be dynamic, like your WordPress, checkouts and Lifter LMS course progression and those kinds of things, right? Yeah. And we just necessarily don't install those by default. So that's one of the things we're focused on, are more dynamic sites, just to support that. So yeah, we don't by default include a page caching feature and we're not driven by the, kind of the buzzwords or, using all these scores to get the performance of a website. We're actually focused on what is the actual real experience versus a number,
Yeah.
right? That's what's important, and uptime. People have a tendency to focus on hitting a number for performance, but they forget that what, at least what my customers and my agency care about is they will definitely let you know if there's a problem with their order system, because that's how they transact business. So in our case, we're booking in-person classes, or most of our customers are in-person class instructors. And, they either make it or break it every week by making sure that they fill those seats up for their customers and any ancillary sales after the fact. So they have a really brief window, usually Saturday, where all these orders come in, and they have zero appetite for outages or lost
So
data.
I'm thinking about the average use case that I interact with,
Mhm.
right? And so the average use case I interact with, I'll be working with a client. They're on Cloudways. It came with Breeze. I'll be working with someone in
Yeah.
20i. It came with Stack Cache.
Hmm.
But then these clients, they think they need a performance or a cache tool. So then they add something else. And then maybe they didn't even realize it. They got some image optimization tool, but anything that says performance or optimization is probably caching something anyway, right? And so they end up with 3 or 4 tools on the website, even if it's by mistake, and they create this disaster, this mess.
Right.
And then I'm hearing you talk, and I'm thinking, well, from an agency perspective, this sounds like a dream. Like, I don't have all this nonsense just to walk people through, because it's confusing for a lot of people. Like,
It is. Yeah.
most business owners don't want to be webmasters. They want to be business owners, and they want someone else to manage the site.
Totally. You want to spend time doing income producing activities. Even our customers, if they're the type that, because everyone's different, right? Everyone's wired differently. Some will never ever ask to log in, or even if they're provided the login, they'll never log in. Even if you need them to log in to be able to, or have somebody log in so that they can, deal with like open orders and things like that, right? And you have other people that have a tendency to, I just watch this YouTube video and I have to, put in Sticky Bear version 2.7 plugin to do some magic thing. And those are actually the ones that probably, if other agencies are like me, those are the ones that cost you the time, right? And cost themselves the time, because they're spending time doing that instead of doing whatever it is their business is supposed to be doing, putting butts in seats if you're an instructor, et cetera. Yeah.
From a Mañana No Mas perspective, when I bring in clients, I think the value that we really bring to the table is, hey, out of those 60,000 plugins that are out there in the WordPress repository, we've really worked with and identified 20 that we're experts with, that fit your use case and can get you, to your minimal viable product and to revenue as quickly as possible. Like, that's in a nutshell. And when it comes to e-learning and memberships, and like, we're solid. Where we're not solid is maybe there's some custom development that people want to do, or they really want to get into that Claude code stuff and really start playing with cursor and messing around with things and going down some custom avenue. And then I find those people generally end up having some kind of security or functionality issue downstream. What kind of support are you able to offer through CribOps for people in these situations that kind of create their own nightmare? Like, do you say, hey, you created your own nightmare, have a nice day?
That's how we do it from our agency perspective. That's actually what we do. So we don't give, we allow them to log in, but we use user roles so that they don't have the ability to install and update plugins or even see them, so they even think about it, right? And that generally works for 98% of our customers. And the ones that want to go off that beaten path, we just had the conversation. You're on your own for support for that. We'll help, like if you need us to recover a backup or something like that. But it's like best effort, we'll take, we won't say no flat out, but we make it very clear that as soon as they go down that path, they've brought in some other developer, a web design, person, and they want to grant them admin access, and they want to change the themes, or they want to use a different learning management system than we have, right, that we've standardized on. We standardize on Lifter LMS
Good man.
for that. And we actually do some integrations with it as well for some additional products that we have. So if they want to go down that path, they just need to understand that that's fine. But you now own the responsibility for that, because we can't. We're a small company. We can't own the responsibility. And as you know, it can take hours, days to sort out an issue that it was created with a change like that, right?
I think that's so interesting because you and I share that ideology, except I think I'm a little split. So I have a website as a service product that we offer for people. They basically lease the website until they pay for what it would have cost to develop it. And then we lower their bill down to an average hosting bill, hosting and maintenance. And so, but during that time, during the lease time, it's user role and no access to plugins. I am not, look, I'm already giving you financing.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I'm already financing your project for you. The last thing I'm going to do is let you go in and screw it up on top of that.
Right.
But once people are fully vested in the build of the site, we usually give them admin access and that coaching that you talked about that said, hey, we're going to give you admin access. It's your website. If you want to hire third parties to work on it, it's yours. You own it. You can do what you want. But when you break it, this is what your maintenance and hosting covers. Anything beyond that, you're either gonna have to be on a maintenance and maintenance plan, or you're gonna have to, be on by the hour to fix it, in real time.
Right. Yeah.
So always an awkward conversation, but I think it's really the only way to go. I mean, you can't have the financial liability of putting yourself out there for other people.
Right. And those people have other choices that they can make for hosting, so it's not like they're dead in the water, right? They can pick up their WordPress and go, somewhere where they just have, full on access to do what they want. Right.
Exactly. Once they get past the lease period with us and they get ownership of the site, we tell them, you're free to take it and do with it what you want.
Right.
Or you can sign up for this hosting and maintenance package with us and it'll reduce your monthly output. Right. So there's different ways to go. I'm interested. I want to ask another question because you got all these wheels turning in my head. We have people in town that are creating vibe coded SaaS websites.
Right.
And so I don't know what this person's using. I don't know if they're using Replit or at one point I heard they were using Squarespace and talking like these are AI coded, custom websites. I'm like, no, you're on Squarespace. Everyone's got a different vernacular, different sense of vocabulary to go with what they think they're doing as an agency. Mm-hmm. When you say that you host more than WordPress, that you're, a multi-product platform, what do you like to see people on? Like who's your target customer?
Yeah. So my target customer are only agencies. So we're with the CribOps offering, it's an agency only product. So you could look at like the Kinsta, where our pricing is similar to Kinsta. We just don't charge for updates or for upgrades, hourly backup. We include that for free. That would cost you $100 a site as an example, right?
Yeah.
So our target market are agencies, and we think agencies are now getting pressure to have something besides WordPress that they can offer and customize as an offering to get a niche automation offering or something to that effect, right? Where WordPress may or may not always be part of it. Oftentimes it would probably be part of the solution. Could be, the whole headless thing, for example, that seems to be making a comeback now as these vibe coded things are happening, right? Where, you still have WordPress as a back end because you've got your, all of your investment and all these tools that are available, but you want to have some fancy front end, right? So it could also be an agency that just wants to spend less time managing WordPress issues, because if you get it onto kind of a more repeatable platform, there's not a lot of variance in between, so the likelihood you're going to run into a problem is less. But then these vibe code solutions, we offer a static hosting capability. So if you built a service on Lovable or Bolt or one of these many, things, or you use Claude Code at the terminal and, brought something, spoke something into existence, right? You can deploy that into your CribOps environment and share the resource because most things need a database. Well, you might as well use the already available database that you have sitting right there. Just create another database on it, and now
Yeah.
you have a common view. So now, and we have a mobile app. I forgot, the one more thing. We have a mobile app, so you can manage your agency in your pocket and look, and the list of the sites will just say what kind of site it is. It's a PHP site, it's a Laravel site, it's an N8N, because you can deploy N8N in there and self-host that. WordPress, mutable and immutable. So if you're really wanting to just like say no, not only do you not have, or even if you had admin access, you can't make changes to the file system because it's immutable. So there's a flag that you can turn on with WordPress and say nothing other than your uploads directory. If you want to upload your images and that kind of stuff, and then that's not actually hosted there. It's put in S3 and has a CloudFront, CDN, cache for that. But the, WordPress and all the plugins are all together in a bundle that are updated as one deployment. When a new update comes out, the whole shoot match is swapped together instead of a onesie, twosie, plugin update, and it passes health checks before it makes it in there, so that you don't have the onesie, twosie plugin giving you a, white screen of death, WordPress deployment, right? Where
I very embarrassingly did that to one of my clients' websites just yesterday.
Yeah, it happens. Happens to the best of us. Yeah.
We were working in staging, and then last week I told her I would do something for her, and then I went into staging and it was gone. Like, she took her staging site down, or her host took the staging site down, and I said, it's just a code snippet. I'm just going to drop it right in on production and see what happens.
Yeah, could go wrong.
Whoops.
Yeah.
So
I do it to myself all the time, but yeah, sometimes I don't listen to my own best, advice, but
yeah, she's a super cool client. She's fun. Her energy's great. She's really gracious. I don't think it's an issue, but it's just one of those things. It's like, I've got a process, and then, the process was broken and I should have just stopped in our tracks, but I was like, it's just this quick little thing, and poof, just like that. So interesting. And I'm glad to hear you laugh and realize it happens to you too. So
yeah, totally. Yeah. We're all humans. We're all fallible.
Yeah. I don't feel too stupid.
To really mess up, you need a computer.
Well, now I've got lots of those.
Yeah.
I think we have something like 14 computers in the house now. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. There's only 3 human beings in this house right now.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, so let's say I'm an agency, right? And I'm probably putting you on the spot, and I know I want to watch the time, but I want to get through this too. I'm an agency. I'm looking for a place to move my clients that makes sense. I've never heard of CribOps before. What's the experience? Like, do I get, is there a control panel of some sorts? How do I see my clients? And is there a control panel or an interface I can share with individual clients if I wanted to?
Right. So so we have our own control panel, and a mobile app that has the same view of that. And the mobile app can get notifications, like up, down, like white screen of death notifications, because we add that. We have a monitoring system on there, and it just runs it kind of like divides it up on the instance and just, checks everything. So it'll check for what, not just if it's up, but also if you have that no content thing that a white screen of death would give you, alert that, push notification, you click it, it'll take you to the site. You can, restart, you can do those kind of things from the mobile app. As far as extending a panel to end users, we could do it. And I'll do it if I get the feedback that that's what people want. Because the system we have is capable. It's like a multi-tenant system, so it could be scoped, as cool kids say, so that if a user signed in, they're only going to see their site, right? And it's just whether or not you want to give that access or not. And we could do the same for the mobile app. It just would be, we're not planning on probably, at least initially, white labeling the mobile app, because it's just, there's a fair amount of lift with that. where, and I don't know that as an agency you'd want to, push that capability all the way down to the users like that. Maybe you do. Maybe
Yeah. Well,
maybe you want to give them the ability to clear their cache from their mobile device versus call you and say, "Hey, I'm making a change and it's not working." I question whether customers will know to do that or not. But
well, all the customers say they need it, and then none of them ever sign in and use it.
right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just becomes one of those things.
It's
And
just a branding thing, right? So if you're an agency, so if I extend that to them, then all the branding questions will come up, right? Which
yeah,
we'd have to, satisfy. So I want, my logo, to show on the,
yeah.
the thing,
Oh, people
right?
get crazy, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
that creates a lot of like limited value as far as everyone is concerned, as far as uptime and performance and those kind of things. And now it's, kind of not that marketing's not valuable, but it's a subset of the audience that probably would think they want that, and whether they actually use it would be a question. I will let the audience decide on that as to whether we build that, because the capability is there.
nice.
So.
One more question.
Mhm.
An agency signs up. Is it like a reseller account and they can add as many sites as fit in the bandwidth? Or is it like it's $30 a site? Or is it $50 a site? Or
Yeah,
like, is it a per
glad
site
you
thing
asked
or
that. Yeah, so because all the competitors put like number of sites in there, we do that. But like, for example, our lowest tier is 20 sites. For an agency plan, right?
yeah.
But you could end up having one customer take up that entire instance if you wanted, right? And so you had the ability to tune the resources that each site utilizes, whether that's CPU and memory, as well as like a high water mark, like, hey, if it's available, go ahead and, take it. But if things get a little busy on all, like all the sites for whatever reason,
Yeah.
some crazy, it's pretty unlikely, but sometimes that happens where you have a lot of, activity going on, then it will constrain it so no one noisy neighbor takes out, all the resources. So we give you, and you can do it from the mobile app. So you could look and see the utilization of CPU and memory from the mobile app and go, oh, I forgot, so-and-so did say he was, potentially going to have a sale. Maybe he moved it up a week. I'm going to go ahead and just give him a little extra headroom, on the instance, and it will make that happen with zero downtime.
Yeah.
So we use containers to, effectively,
Sweet.
manage
Sweet.
that. Yep.
Because from the agency perspective, and I might be full of it. Maybe everyone else is running some thriving business where everybody's a gazillionaire. But I find that in real life, you might manage 50 websites as a medium-sized agency. And out of those 50 websites, 30 of them do next to zero in traffic.
Yes. Yeah, easily 30. Yeah.
They just sit there. Yeah, they just sit there. And then
Yeah.
and those are the squeakiest wheels. Those are the ones
Right.
where, oh, my website's down. Well, it doesn't matter. You didn't have a customer anyway.
Yeah,
But-
those are the ones that are also spending an awful lot of time testing out different plugins instead of driving business. So that's why they have no traffic.
Yeah, just get to selling something, sell something. But then out of the 20% that are doing traffic, to your point, it seems like it's almost like maybe a couple of them are really big on Black Friday activity. Maybe a couple of them are really big on some kind of spring release. Like I do a lot of work in the power sports industry. And so traffic and bandwidth and stuff increases like March through September. And then it's like data falls off a cliff. No one's looking at nothing until Christmas. They do a little dream building at Christmas, right? So when I look at actual traffic and flow and tasks or processes or whatever name you want to put on it, it's up and down, and it's only on certain accounts. And so, yeah, I like that you have those containers and you can allocate the resources appropriately.
Yep. Oh, and on that, we also, this is kind of unique. We enable per site storage allocation. So most everybody else, it's a shared VPS, and it's storage on that, and the storage is shared across, if you're putting multiple instances on an instance. In our case, each task or each container has its own storage that's also flexible. We give 20 gigs by default per site, and then you can at the time of launching make that larger if you'd like, and then or grow it after the fact. And
Yeah.
so now storage is a separate, separately scaled thing.
That's pretty sweet. I have a client who I adore. She building the website was a task.
Yeah.
It was a task. Her brain does not work the same as my brain. It was a task building the website. But I've really come to adore her as a client. She has a makeup class. It's a makeup school.
Okay.
And she put like a 9-month pause on the project and redid all the videos professionally in LA with real videography in a real studio with, real models. And I've also done makeup projects for like large, big companies. Her content dwarfs their content. Like she makes awesome content, but she wants everything to be high definition, high resolution, high everything. Every picture that opens up, you got to see the pores in that girl's nose. And so it's a lot of, even though it seems like a lot of pictures, when you consider the size of the images and how people can open them up and expand them, it's just huge files. So it's a huge course, huge video files, huge photo files. And to your point, yeah, it might not have the most traffic, but it uses a lot of resources in that space.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So one thing we do with just images and such in general is when you upload to the WordPress, if you're using WordPress, to the media pool, we have a hook into that, and we take that and we drop that into an S3 bucket. So first, it's not consuming the per task storage in that case. Yeah. And then we use CloudFront because we predominantly use everything as AWS, and we use CloudFront to serve that content up at the edge, right? And then at option we can automatically compress those images or treat those images appropriately so that you're not using oodles of bandwidth when somebody's on a mobile device or things like that. So we provide that. We have like a plugin that's just installed by default, and it will hook up and do that automatically, for the user, and rewrite all the URLs and all that kind of stuff. So there's no need for a separate, CDN plugin for something like that. Now videos, something that I'd have to look on. I know you've used BunnyNet and things like that. There are probably some lower cost alternatives for serving up that. The video content than, straight up on AWS, but we could do it as well. So we can serve up streaming and.
Well, I've been throwing them under the bus all month, so I'll do it again on this episode. I had a lifetime deal with Adillo. And so I used Adillo for like 5 years, right? Because it was a lifetime deal and you could host all the videos you wanted. And then all of a sudden, first of the year rolled around and they were like, you got 30 days to pick the subscription you want. And I was like, I don't need a subscription. I have a lifetime deal.
Right.
They were like, no, that wasn't
last I checked.
No, that wasn't a mistake. We found it's financially infeasible to offer a lifetime deal. And I'm like, well, that's not how lifetime deals work. Like Lifter LMS has a lifetime deal, but it's a limited lifetime deal. They only sell so many of them, per year, and they still rely on subscriptions to keep the money coming. I think Adillo just got, can't speak because I'm not on the inside of the company, but they just said, yeah, we know you bought a lifetime deal, but we're not going to honor it anymore. You have to subscription. And it wasn't even a cheap subscription. Like, it wasn't like, hey, thanks so much for being a loyal customer for 5 years. We're going to let you host for $20 a month. No, it was like $40 a month or something. And I was like, forget it. And it had limits. Like, it was like $40 a month and, you're almost at your limit already. And so I was like, no, we're moving everything to bunny.net. So I've put customers on bunny.net. I'm on bunny.net. Just seems like the way to go. I mean, Vimeo, I guess, is first class and works real well. I just don't like the surprise invoice you get down the road.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've not been hit with that because I'm not nearly as popular as some people I know. But I know people who have gotten the bills for tens of thousands of dollars if you want to continue, and they've had to move off. So
we'll get you on more podcasts. You'll get more popular.
We're usually the man deep undercover.
So I do want to value your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show, because I've invited you before and you were like, I'm not ready. Now here you are. So this is awesome. Folks, if you If you haven't checked out CribOps or you've never heard of CribOps before, I encourage you to do so. I know Jim personally. He's an upstanding dude. At least give it a look. Jim, if you give anybody any extra details or maybe plug Lurdy before we get off the call, because Lurdy's really cool too.
Yeah.
Plug that. And then since they're existing enterprises, since they're existing agencies, is the migration process part of the move, or is that on their shoulders?
It is part of the move. So we actually have a kind of no plugin required script for some types of sites, and we'll continue to work that. So like if you have shell access, like a cPanel or a grid pane, for example. In fact, I'm just finishing up the grid pane migration today, where it'll just do it auto magically with a button click. You drop your key in from your source, and it will just make it happen.
I love
Server to server with no plugins. Yep, and no need to log in on the other side. So yeah, yes, we have that. Yeah.
So yeah, people to go.
Yeah, so you go to CribOps.com is the website, and at CribOps pretty much anywhere that you know, social media wise. Kurt also mentioned Lurdy, so I'm also the chief technology officer and a developer there for Lurdy, which is a automation tool that's pretty slick. That is lurdy.ai, and you can go out there and take a look at that. That's basically if you are an AI agency, or you're someone that has built agents, whether that's on N8N or Zapier or Make or one of those kinds of things, and you want to be able to take that that product or that agent and sell it as a service, or you just want to use it, you know, have a second brain and have a conversation with your phone and have it categorize and build things. We have on Lurdy, we have free tiers and $29 a month tiers, and you know, $200 a month if you're an agency, if you want to, you know, sell this and make money with it. Lurdy.ai, go check it out.
Yeah, cool stuff. Jim, thanks so much. Folks, Jim Hankins, check him out. There'll be some links in the show notes for you. So don't worry if you didn't hear him say it. You know, the notes will be in the description, and we'll see you next time.